Hey everybody, it's me again, Sebastian, and I'm back again today with Lost Hombres, and I believe we're on episode 6. So welcome, welcome. Last couple weeks we've been talking about some different topics, including family members, my history with mental health, how I got to the place that I'm at. A little bit about my background and history, and just kind of some insight explaining my history with mental health, the people that were important characters. And today I plan on exploring a topic character in my life that has meant a lot to me and continues to mean a lot to me. And it's going to be interesting to kind of see where our lives continue to go. But that person today I'll be talking about is my brother. And so let's kind of like summarize again, kind of my life, things I've been through, my lifestyle. And we go back to childhood, right? So again, I grew up in Mexico. I grew up in the States. My dad was in the military. Mom was a preschool teacher, right? We grew up in low income environments, trying to make it by, surviving, just being low middle class, as best as we can, going from the hood to better hood, top of the end hood, right? We're still in the hood, but we're in the nice streets, Not all the cars on cinder blocks here. Not everyone's having a triple homicide, That's like 3 roads down, Don't live in that neighborhood. Just come up where we're at. But anyways, so a little bit about me and my brother. So, first couple years of my life, it was just me. And then when I was about 3 years old in 94, my brother come along. So yeah, so living life, it's hard to remember things before you're three. So like I pretty much knew my life with my brother, right? So he comes into my life. At this time, I remember my mom and dad are together. So after like whatever, they're together, and my dad was actually there for my brother's birth. So I remember that as far as like he was around more for my little brother. And let me see. So in the first little house I remember growing up with my brother, we lived in like a 2 bedroom little spot in like La Mesa area. And let's see. So, we grew up. My brother is very different from me. It's very likely he's probably on the spectrum some sort. Definitely different from how my brain. And for those that know how the spectrum works, remember I think of it as brown eye and blue eyes. There's people with ADHD. There's people with autism. There's people with both. So you got a combination there. So people with both think they're normal, and people who are on the opposite side, just like if you had blue eyes or brown eyes, are the weirdos because everybody has hazel eyes in our neighborhood, and you guys are like the weirdos with the different eyes, right? So if you look at the way the spectrum works compared to ADHD, very opposed lines of the equation here. People on the spectrum tend to be very one-way thinking, tend to be very like when they like something or they have a desire or they want something, they're very much stuck in their ways. It's very hard to change their minds. Sometimes it's hard to read their affect. So, they could be saying one thing, presenting one way, and like you were like, they're lying. And they might be being brutally honest with you. But because of the way they say it, the way they're interacting, you might be like, you don't seem like you're being honest here. So that might influence the way you interact with them because, again, the way they come at you, the way they just disclose information might be a lot of how you interpret their conversations with them and how they act. Now that I've had children who are on the spectrum, I definitely can see, wow, the challenges that come with having kids on the spectrum, especially when you don't know they're on the spectrum. And especially if you have a parent who also probably is on the spectrum that doesn't know that they're on the spectrum, there's a lot of like problems that lay out here. And some things you'll notice in these relationships is that parents tend to gravitate towards children with their same brain style, if you know what I mean. So if you ever notice in a family, you feel like the black sheep or something, you feel different from everybody. A lot of times the reason why there's a black sheep is because there's more of one brain style in these smaller communities. So like when we used to have like 12 siblings, like villages essentially, like there was enough variety within the village of like the family dynamic where you probably could relate to a couple people in your little dynamic because they probably had some sort of brain style that worked with yours. But when you only have one or two, three kids, there can be significant differences. So like even with my kids, we have four, three of them likely on the spectrum, and one of them ADHD, 100%, right? So the ADHD always feels like a little different, like the black sheep, right? But if I would have had like 12, 13, 14, 20 kids, there's so much variety in what brain styles exist within that dynamic that you're probably going to find somebody that you relate to. And not only that, because you come from similar family dynamics, similar interests, similar likes, similar, because the DNA sequencing is so similar in some aspects that you're going to find commonalities in large families, right? So it makes sense that large families, they'll find some sort of connection with each other because, again, there's that like sense of like, hey, this person's kind of like me. They kind of relate to me versus like when you, again, have only two siblings where you could have two complete opposites. And let's say for some reason, one parent just goes away for a long time and just disappears that probably related to your brain style. All of a sudden, you're the only one that's weird. Well, that one's like me, you're not. So you're the weirdo. Because again, in their mind, they're normal because why would they be normal? That's what normal is to them. Like how the thing about the brain, okay, it affects the way you think and operate. So if it affects the way you think, operate, feel all the things, right? Then that's your literal existence being changed. It's like that's how you exist in the planet. So if there's some kind of intellectual disability or some kind of overregulation or whatever it may be, whatever problem may exist in the world, that problem is going to cause some other issues, right? Because obviously, right, they're not going to be doing well if they're struggling with overstimulation or whatever, right? So again, they might relate to things like big smells or like certain types of stimulation. They maybe they don't like loud noises or they get it. So both of them are going to relate to those deficits because to their brain that's normal. You're the weirdo. Why do you need to watch TV and listen to music? Like, why do you need three different things to stimulate you? Something's wrong with you. You're going to go crazy. You're going to go bad. Not knowing that's normal for somebody with ADHD. Oh, wow, all those symptoms you just reported are literally the same. And this is why it's valuable to have parents that have the same brain style involved in children's life, because then that parent can be like, that's normal. I did that. Like, but again, when that parent isn't involved, right? When you only have one parent with one brain style, it's very hard to relate to your children that don't have your brain style because you think, like, this isn't normal. What is this? When really it is normal. And if it was normal for you, you probably could help them understand it a little better if you had insight on how to yourself understand your symptoms, understand your deficits. It's very interesting how many times, because of the popularity of ADHD and autism and how common those diagnoses are, because of the way we can study them now and understand things, and people know what they look like, and once you get one family member diagnosed, like you understand, again, it's genetic. And again, when everybody realizes that this is a lot more common than we like to think, mark my words, okay, that people are going to be like, oh, wow, these are just people being people at the end of the day. Again, people with brown eyes are going to have different problems than people with blue eyes, right? The people with light skin are going to be different from people with dark skin. It's just how it works. It's opposites. There are reasons why we exist the way we are. There's probably reasons why autism is a benefit. There's probably reasons why ADHD is a benefit. It's probably why they want to have both of them. But you don't want to just have one of these styles, because if everybody just had ADHD, you'd start seeing all the problems come up, right? If everybody just had autism, you'd see problems coming up. If everybody had both, you'd see problems. So again, the reason why society works with a variety is because that variety allows us to all have a part in this society, right? So we need variety, right? So again, all I'm saying is that when there's a single household with a parent that with one brain style, if there's any other brain styles in that family, that's already going to cause a lot of problems in this relationship, in this family dynamic. There's going to be a lot of issues with the way people interact with each other, the way they talk to each other, the way they engage with each other. So there's a lot of issues right off the bat if you don't have people that can connect with your brain styles, which is why oftentimes kids will relate to a grandparent because maybe that grandparent has their brain style. So like, oh my God, this person relates to me. They're just like me. They operate to my similar status. So having that commonality with people is something that's a benefit. Now, something that, again, might happen is you might have two parents, two people with both 88, ADHD kind of thing. So again, even with parent, again, you could have a parent with two parents with hazel eyes, right? And they still can have kids with what? One or the other. So again, as long as this can exist. So for example, like me and my ex, we we both have ADHD, right? We're both foot shakers, right? And so we can have a kid with ADHD because again, if we both have the blue eye gene. Why? Because one of our kids has blue eyes. One of our kids has blonde hair, brown eyes. And one kid has brown eyes, brown hair. The other kid has brown eyes, brown hair, right? Now he's from a different dad. So I mean, obviously that's going to be variety. But again, you're going to see these varieties play out within the family dynamic, right? So I have brown eyes, brown hair. but I have kids with blonde hair because inside of me, there's a gene that exists that allows that to happen. So even if two parents don't have that diagnosis, as long as it's in their system, it can happen. It can present itself. So just by a parent having it, again, that's how genes work. We just pass it on to our kids. But again, if you have two parents with autism, it's a chance you just have a kid with just autism, just that type of brain, because that's just how brains work. It's just how the law of attraction works, right? And you'll see this play out. I mean, look, Shrek and Donkey, ADHD and autism. Shrek always wants to be handsome, always cares what people think about him, always dealing with rejection sensitivity. And Donkey's like, what up, bro? I don't care. Listen, whatever, right? Woody and Buzz Lightyear. Woody always cares about being like, popular. Always worried about what? And Buzz Lightyear literally is Buzz Lightyear. Okay. Mike and Sully, right? Sully wants to be the big scare all the time, cares about being rejected, cares about people liking him, and Sully does not care. Sully's like, whatever, bro. I'm existing. I'm just me. Doesn't care. Wally and Eve. Eve cares about always doing the right thing, and Wally doesn't. Whatever, bro. He's just, I'm doing my thing. I always do my little routine. Always watches the same movie. Always puts things away the same way. Very routine, just the way he is, right? So all these characters, right? SpongeBob and Squidward. Okay, Squidward always wants to be handsome. Always cares what people think. Always wants to be isolated because fear of rejection. And then what? SpongeBob does not care. He's like, whatever, bro. I'm just existing, right? So again, these common tropes will find each other. That's why it's not so scary to be like, oh my God, my kid has this or my kid has that. Trust me, someone out there likes it. You just don't know it yet. And even you like it, you just don't know it yet. So it's, again, we're not attracted to our parents. We're not attracted to these things. Like, no matter what these other therapists, psychologists say, there's these things that are happening underlyingly that we don't know. And a lot of it comes from lack of information, lack of insight, lack of data, lack of knowledge. And also, again, I think I said this earlier or another video, we are not living like human beings. So don't expect us to be operating properly when we don't live in a society that's ever existed prior. Like, when have we ever lived in houses like this? When have we ever worked in offices? When have we ever had like a government the way it's been set up, like where they can just show up at your door and just take you and like you can post something online and they can. We didn't have that before, right? These systems, they were much more grounded in reality. Now it's like this virtual world that like builds upon, and that takes away from reality. So when you're living in this existential world, you're not being in the now, and that's going to take away from you operating in the now. So when you look at autism and ADHD, a lot of these people actually have problems because we didn't know these things were existing before. And again, what human beings like, I want to work 40 hours a week? Get the fuck out of here. Nobody said like, oh, I just want to, yeah, benefits. What? No, like we want basic. Why do you want that? Why does the general masses want something beneficial to them? I don't know. But again, we live and operate in a system, in a society that doesn't allow those things. And so when we see these problems and, oh my God, my kid has ADHD, my kid has autism, or whatever it is, you see these problems. They're not actually real problems because you don't understand them. Just as much as someone would say, your kid has depression. Oh my God, your kid is lacking fulfillment. This is a symptom of a deficit that they're experiencing. It's normal to feel these things when you have a deficit, just as much as it's normal to stress and have anxiety when you have a deficit in your life. So instead of being like, oh my God, depression, get rid of it, understand it. The same thing as ADHD and autism. We want to understand these things so that we can provide our children with the right types of environment, the right types of support based on what they have. Just as much as you treat a girl and a boy differently. Why? Because they have innately different desires, innate different needs. If you try to make everybody the same, no one's going to be happy. Yes, they can live and continue and exist, but they're never going to be happy. They're not going to be enlightened. They're not going to enjoy their life. They're not going to be feeling good about their progress. So in the end, what does it matter, right? Because they're not fulfilled, because you're suppressing that true nature, that true self. Nature is not something we choose. It's something that we experience. It's the way we choose to engage with nature that's choice, right? So we can choose to understand what we're going through, or we can choose to demonize what we're going through, make it the problem, even though we didn't choose to experience this, right? We're choosing to have this happen, right? We're choosing to not deal with it, but we're not choosing to experience it. So we need to help kids understand that when they have these deficits, it's not them that's the problem. It's the operation of how we handle it that becomes the problem, because that's the problem is I'm having this, and the solution is to do something about it, not suppress it. Okay. If I have a wound, I don't go, I'm just going to ignore it. No, that pain is coming for a reason. So the more we understand the issues that are causing these things, then we just be like, yeah, isn't that normal to have a knife in your back? Yeah, whatever, bro. No, this is not normal. This is not good. Take this out. What is this? When we understand, then we can heal and we can process and grow. So going back to me and my brother, polar opposites on the spectrum, you could say. So actually, I would say this: my brother probably ADHD because he was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, so he does have ADHD. So because of his ADHD, there were times where we're going to synchronize. Something that happened with me and my ex that was really interesting is that she would have these moments where I would feel like we're on the same page, like, oh my God, you get me. And we just, we're like two chatterboxes. But then when autism would kick in, well, goodbye. Who's this person? Who's autism? And autism is like, I'm just not going to talk now. I'm just shutting off. I don't care. And they just go very cold. So the way to look at autism to me, that's Hulk on the outside, right? With a little Bruce Banner on the inside. So autism's like, what do you want? Like, but when they calm down, they're like, so I was thinking about what you said earlier, and it was really interesting. Blah, 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 blah. So once Hulk calms down, Bruce Banner will come out. ADHD is the opposite. We're Bruce Banner with Hulk inside, which is like, I don't want it to come out. Don't come out of me. So there is something in us that will come out at some point, but it doesn't feel good for us. We don't like it. We don't like to go there. We don't want to be that person. We actually feel bad. That's just like Bruce Banner would feel bad about being that person. But autism's like Hulk again with Bruce Banner inside. So once Hulk comes out, that's it. You're not talking to Bruce Banner anymore. He's gone. You got to wait for the Hulk to calm down to be de-stimulate. That's what happens to people with autism. They get overstimulated and they need to de-stimulate and they come back and then they're rational. They're like, so anyways, that happened earlier. We're just going to like ignore that whole problem, right? We're not going to deal with it. And so you'll notice this in relationships when you're in a family dynamic with these symptoms. So again, you'll even notice the dynamics play out within intergenerations, right? So you could have a son and a parent and a grandparent all live in the same household that have the same mental health disorder. So you can see commonalities within them, which is why another reason why my mom and my grandma were like two peas in a pod. And they'll literally fight like cats. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, anyways, like that didn't happen, because that's how autism functions. It's like, well, we're not doing that now. So why does it matter? They're very matter of fact. So if they haven't said something mean to you, like you're a stupid fucking bitch, they didn't say anything mean. Even if their tone is like da 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 and talks at you and puts you down, well, I wouldn't do it like that. Even if they say like that, they didn't say anything mean. So you shouldn't take it as mean because they didn't say anything mean. It's not the way they say. It's like what they say. They focus more on what they say instead of the process of how they say it. And this can be very confusing when you're a child living with a parent who's like that, a grandparent who's like that, maybe a potentially other grandparent who's like that, and then and the sibling who's like that. Because again, once you're in this dynamic and you see all these other people with this brain style, you start to feel like you're isolated, like you're the only one. Like, am I the weird one? And again, you technically are the weird one because you are different from them. You do move your body more than they do. You do get overstimulated in other ways that they don't, and in ways they do. So you have some similarities because again, if they have the ADHD, which my mom and brother do have the foot shaking and the I can't stop moving, the wiggle wiggle. So they both have that. So again, sometimes we would relate with them, but there's other times I'm not going to relate with them at all. They're going to be in their own world. They're going to do their own thing, and we're not going to be relating. And so when we don't relate, right, well, then it causes friction within the dynamic. So I'm not feeling connected. I'm not feeling like I'm fulfilled. I'm not feeling. And so that's the problem when we face some of these issues, dealing with parents that have different brain sets than us. So sometimes we can get along and feel like, wow, they get me. And then other times it's like, what the hell happened? Like you just changed on me. Like, and again, so many things can trigger overstimulation and autism. And a lot of times they'll act one way in public and they'll act a different way at home. So in public, they'll be like, oh, like, uh, yes, oh, yes, I love that, blah, blah, blah. They'll put like a mask on, but then when they're at home, that mask comes off. So they'll behave in one way in public because they'll be like overstimulated and be like, okay, da, da, da. But the second they go back, they're just like, so You would see like even like my mom, right? She might go talk to someone and act one way, but then at home be a whole different person, right? And that's that duality that you'll see is that sometimes they'll mask around people, but that's very draining for them. So when they come home, you're like, hey, where's the nice person from earlier? That person's gone. There is no nice person anymore. I am evil. I hate everything. Like that literally turns on. They get over like if they're overstimulated, they are very mean and catty. They do not want to talk to you. They are in their child brain 101. Okay. So again, they tend to be more emotional, very intelligent people, super smart. Dude, my brother had crazy abilities, but as far as emotional regulation goes, neither one of them were good at that. Man, sometimes again, the fighting that would happen, but then like the forgetful nature too. Like argue about something, set limits and rules, and then all of a sudden like that didn't even matter. Like that wasn't even like part of the equation anymore. So they'll just move on. So that was a different interesting dynamic. So again, yeah, autism, ADHD within the same family dynamics going to cause friction. Okay. So that being said, growing up of the brother that was, different. He was very emotional, very like unregulated. Sometimes when we were kids, he'd hit me, and I was very nice. I loved having brother. I wanted to take care of him. I would baby him. Again, when I was little, I used to have my own baby doll. So I didn't mind taking care of children. I liked taking. I had this like innate nature to want to like take care, to nurture, right? So I wanted to do that. Like there was something in me that wanted to provide that guidance. So I was really excited about having a brother. I wanted a brother. It was cool. A little background on my brother. He was supposed to be a girl, quote unquote. They were hoping for a girl. So, the perfect family. No, we got a boy. We got a boy. So, yeah, growing up, my brother, he was very aggressive. My mom would tell me, hit him back. I don't want it. And he'd come up to me, just grab stuff from me, take stuff from me, not. But over time, let's see, like when we were in that house, like again, we would get along sometimes. We'd like to play games together. We used to like play this like ninja game where we'd like have these like ninja dials and they fight each other and then they kick each other off. So we used to play some ninja stuff, Hot Wheels, set up ramps and stuff. We used to have marble racers. That was fun. Set the little marble stuff because when your mom's in a preschool program, and then also we would go to that preschool together, so he would be there too. So sometimes we'd be playing together, going outside, playing in the like little park or whatever you want to call it, the little like not park the playground, stuff like that. So there was a lot of times we would spend time together, and I remember we had these like battery powered like Harley Davidsons, and we used to ride around the neighborhood, on our motorcycles. Which actually, ironically, now we both are motorcycle riders. Although, all right, fair enough. I've been in a couple motorcycle accidents myself. I've probably been in like two or three. One of them, I was getting off work, I was on the freeway, and then this car, like two cars ahead of me, started swerving like this. He ended up going up the the hill that was there and flipping his car down. So I was like, what the fuck? So I slowed down. I got to about like 10 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden that bike just, I was like, fuck. So I dropped, got scraped up. Like, damn it. And then so I was gonna go check on the guy because I was like, "What the fuck happened?" Right? And then there was like three cars that showed up, and then they started drink. They do this. He was drinking, right? And I'm like, and it was a Little Caesars pizza that he was trying to eat while he was drunk. So that's why he started going fucking crazy and ended up. And so I'm like, bro, really? Like, I tried to be a good person. I stopped and slowed down to go check on this person, and I find out he's a fucking drunk, and that he almost crashed in the middle of like traffic. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So that was like one of my first accidents that really happened to me. The second big accident that really happened to me was like 2 years ago. I had just bought a Honda Shadow 600 off the lot, no miles, after 7 years of riding a Kawasaki Ninja. So I was riding, and then I was getting to the house. I was probably like 10 minutes away from my house. I was slowing down, and I heard the engine make a weird noise. I was like, what the fuck was that? So I started slowing down, braking, clutching, slowing. 15 miles. It gets to like 10 miles an hour, 15, and just locks me down and breaks my shoulder, drops me. So I've been in two accidents, okay? So fair enough. But I've never totaled a bike. Both my bikes are up and running. They're still going. My brother, though, I don't know how many bikes. I think they have like 4 or 5 bikes now, three of them in total. So yeah, man, we were both riding our little battery powered Harley Davidsons at one point, and now we're riding the big bikes. Stop crashing. Anyways, yeah. So cheers to to our new adult life. So yeah, we used to ride RC car or whatever bikes together, and play games together. When we come to Mexico, we had a lot of cousins. So I mean, I like I don't know how many. I mean, probably like near 10 cousins or more. I don't know at this point. I think I have probably more than 10 cousins at this point. So we would hang out with our cousins, come to Mexico. We would play, be with our grandparents. Back when we were younger, people were more connected, like the family in general, like all the brothers and sisters, like the brothers and my mom, who were the sister. They were all connected more. Obviously, as people aged, they've gotten married, they've moved. My cousins are older, so everyone kind of goes in their own path, you could say, right? At some point. But at that age, we were all together. We'd all hang out all the time, do birthday celebrations. We definitely were the kids that would be on the dance floor. Well, I would. I'd be like, you know, my brother was definitely the the one that was more physical, more of the getting involved in stuff. But although I will say this, he always was good at people talking. The one thing about the spectrum that I think is fascinating is they'll just talk to anybody. Like they have this weird thing where because they don't have like social cues, they'll just start like, oh yeah, I like that shirt. Da, da, da. So he was always like the guy that they'd be like, oh, your brother, your brother, I mean, even till today, not even like 2 weeks ago, I was walking down the street, someone's like Cody, and I was like, no, I'm not Cody. What? Oh, are you Sebastian? Yeah, he's like, oh, your brother. And I was like, yeah. Oh, you my brother? He's like, oh, yeah, he used to come over and blah, blah, blah. So again, my brother used to know everybody. He was main character energy. This kid would talk to anybody. I have this theory that if you want to be a main character, you have to talk to all the NPCs. Because as a main character, in order to finish the story, sometimes you literally have to go talk to everybody because they all are leading you to your purpose, right? And if you have a higher power or like, like I believe in magic or whatever, right? So then you would know that by talking to all the NPCs, you're finding your greater purpose because maybe you needed to talk to that person to find your greater purpose. And the other thing about being a main character is not all the NPCs know each other, but everybody knows the main character because the main characters talk to all the NPCs. So they're well recognized because they went out of their way to go talk to everybody and live their purpose while these people were just operating in autopilot, right? They weren't living their purpose anymore. They weren't following something greater than themselves. They were just they were just existing. And that's to me what NPC energy is. It's when you're just existing, you're not thriving, you're not living for passion. You're just in existence. So, anyways, my brother would just go talk to anybody, right? And so he was just always making friends, always. And I'm just like, I don't want to be, I was always the rejection sensitive one that was worried about judgment and whatever, right? He wasn't. He would just go out anytime. But yeah, so he was also the kind of kid that if he wanted something, he would just take it. Yeah, it was just gonna be his. And he also very sneaky, very like, he was a bit of a klepto. When he wanted something, he just end up with it, He just finds stuff that he liked, and they were his now. And what are you gonna do about it? Take it from him? Mm-mm. So yeah, my brother was definitely that kind of kid that when he wanted something, he was gonna get it. He had it his way, and that was it. I remember for a while, like, what were we sleep in the same? We slept in the same room. We had different beds. I think at one point it was a race car, those kind of beds. We definitely were big gamers together. I think I said earlier in another podcast, my dad was the kind of guy who would go to like different Eastern countries and get different like video game consoles that weren't open or available to the masses here in the States. And me and my brother, like probably one of the best bonding things we had was video games. Like we would sit and play together. Like that was our way of bonding. I would say bonding for video games, bonding certain toys and stuff. My brother, he was like when he liked something, he just really liked that, and that's all he wanted to do. Like, and that's just he had his special interest, and he would just stick to those, right? And so we were different because I was more of an intellectual since very young. I've always been an intellectual. And my brother's more of like, just like, whatever, who cares? Kind of like, what does it mean? What does that matter? Like, whatever. Like, just kind of going with the flow kind of guy. Like, I'm gonna go here, here, here. Very much passion driven, right? But not much of like would be. He has a lot of passion. When like I said, when he wants something, he'll do it, but doesn't always think through his choices. He's led a lot more by his gut, which goes back to what I said about autism, which is like Hulk running the show. Hulk wants it. Hulk get. And if you tell Hulk no, Hulk is like no. And again, once they calm down and stuff, yeah, they'll regulate, right? And they'll apologize and but at the moment, man, ain't gonna be that way. So when we were living together, yeah, it was interesting because there was always kind of fighting, and like I said in another podcast as well, parents comparing is never a good thing. And me and my brother were compared to each other since we were children, like young, always. Well, your brother, the this, da, 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 da. And again, what have I told you guys? That is not healthy. Why? Because we are different brains, we are different children, we are different everything, we're different ages. You don't compare people that are not the same. That doesn't work. Don't do that. And let alone outside of their appropriate developmental design, right? You can't be telling them, oh, this, that. Another thing, my brother was very good at learning like certain things like numbers and arithmetic. Like I would be in second grade learning like math or something, and he would be saying answers, and I would get mad because I'm the one that's supposed to answer. And my mom would be like, oh, your brother gets it. This fool has autism. Okay, I can't fight autism. Like he has a natural gift inside of him. What do you want from me? I, I don't have that object permanent memory, whatever. Like that's not my forte. But if you want me to dance rhythmically to music, I can do that. Yeah, you want me to come up with three different solutions to all kinds of problems? I'll do that all day. But ask me to memorize a long number, I can take you. Give me a little bit, you know. I will not. I couldn't memorize things like he could. I couldn't be like, well, duh, that's the answer. But again, what he had in intellectual ability at that time, he lacked in social ability, and so this is where the contrast comes. So ADHD is good at what? Understanding body language, socializing, being good boys, right? And it's not that we're not smart, we're very intelligent. The problem is we get limited by our insecurities. So we start focusing so much on our insecurities that we stop processing what we need to value ourselves to move forward. Also, when we have parents that don't understand ADHD, they're not going to promote and support us in an intellectual way, which can be very decentivizing, right? So if parents don't foster and grow intellectual desire, like curiosity and those things, then they're going to die in childhood. It's going to be very hard to activate those later because, again, those are just natural things. So from a very young age, me and my brother have always been compared intellectually, physically, everything, just always compared, right? I mean, I was like, oh, well, everyone likes your brother. Everyone likes him like that. Like everyone likes him. It's like, thanks, mom. Appreciate it. Glad to know that everybody likes my brother better because he's nicer and I'm the mean one. And it's not that I'm the mean one, it's that I'm the quiet one. I just didn't feel the need to go talk to people. I was like, why? Like these people, I don't get along with them. They don't like what I like. They're not going to like, what's the point? Like they have never fostered a healthy relationship with me. And oftentimes my aunts and uncles were the type of people that just make fun of people. And if you guys know anything about the way I view mental health and the way I view things, then you can sell there was a lot of people operating from their child brains that were considered adults, but they're operating again from child brain, from feelings, right? So they're not intellectuals, they're not enlightened in thinking, how might this affect this child? They didn't care about that. They just cared about making themselves feel good. Haha, I told them that. That's good for him. Instead of thinking, what's actually good for a child? Let's use some reason here. So a lot of these people lack these basic functioning. So as a result, as a kid, you're growing up in these very unhealthy, toxic environments, just trying to survive, but not knowing that the stuff that's happening isn't unhealthy, even though inside of you, somewhere in there saying, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't feel like they should be telling me these things. But again, you don't have the ability to fight it. You just kind of have to flow and go with it, even though inside of you, you're not, it might not be something you align with, but you don't really have a choice but other to go with it, right? So again, me and my brother growing up in this house, a lot of comparing. My dad and mom fought a lot. My dad's an alcoholic, so obviously that people that drink cause problems. But also my mom is like, she is back in those days, especially oof, when she didn't like, she would just yell. She was very like aggressive, very like, I don't know, like you're gonna eat, you're gonna do like very commanding, always, always. Like the only time you get a break from her is when she was tired. Yeah, come in. Like she had to be tired if you wanted to be left alone, essentially, right? So like that's how it functioned. It's like anything. What are you doing? Okay, It's like okay, okay. I'm doing the right. Am I being good? Right? So you're always kind of on edge. Okay. And then when parents are fighting, what happens? You end up like what? Like isolating. So me and my brother would often just go play with each other because when your parents are fighting, you just go play with your sibling because like what else are you gonna do? You just like let's just avoid this. Let's just go over here, even though you're scared because your parents are talking about leaving each other and they're fighting about like wow, and they're fighting about money and they're fighting about everything and all these things are happening. And so you're feeling a little lost inside. You're feeling like what is this? Like this isn't good. So I had my brother and When my dad would leave, I would be in charge. I would become the man of the house, right? So I had to be the example, the good one, the blah blah blah, the helper, right? I had to take on all these responsibilities as being like the bigger brother, right? The example, the role model. Okay, so again, call it older sibling syndrome, call it having ADHD and being the golden child, whatever. Right? I was always the one that was like the good student, the one getting the good grades, the one that's always achieving, the one that's always, but I didn't get the recognition. Okay. So I was an achiever, but that doesn't mean I would get recognition, right? I would like, for example, if I got anything less than an A, it was like, why, right? But if my brother got a C, it was like a party was happening. And I'm just sitting here like, this isn't fair. Like, why does he get a reward for a C, but I get nothing? Oh, because he's different. So now differences matter. So I'm the black sheep because I'm different, and that's bad. But because he's different, he gets special treatment because he's different and can't help it. But somehow I can help what I'm doing, even though I'm a child, even though I don't understand. Somehow I can help what I'm doing. Somehow I'm choosing to act this way. I'm choosing behaviors that aren't in my best interest. Why? How does that make sense? How is me jumping up and down, moving around, wiggling, being anxious in my best interest? How is watching three things is like me wanting to be like, oh, I'm going to go against me? Okay. No, I'm following what my guide inside is telling me. That is, children just respond to stimulation that's required and they don't understand what's happening. But, anyways, so while he's getting rewarded for doing half the work, I'm getting punished for even glimpsing at all for not doing anything right, which automatically set up a precedent that there was unfairness in this house. So anything my brother would do, I would just blame it on my mom. Like, you don't parent him properly. You set limits, you don't do this, but you don't actually do anything about it. And so what ends up happening when you don't properly sustain yourself because you get tired or lazy is that children don't start to care. They know that your rules don't mean anything. They know that there's no actual fear. They know that if they go back to playing, you're just going to give it back to them. They know that if they whine enough, you're just going to give it to them. They know that if they say, oh, but woe is me, you're just going to fall into that. And the second they start fiending, they're not going to stop fiending until you stop allowing them to fiend. So this process continued throughout my childhood, right? Where I was held to a higher standard while they were not. And this affected me because I always felt this like distaste for my brother, even though I should have never had a distaste for my brother. I should have never disliked my brother. Why? Because he's my brother. He's nothing. He's a different entity from me. I just should appreciate his existence and the fact that I get to have a brother. But that's not what we had. We had a fucking gladiator match in there. We had two people that had to completely, always had to compete. Always, always, always. Oh, he's fat. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did that. Oh, always having to compare. Never could we just be appreciated for what we were, but we always had to be reminded of what we weren't. So that's just something that can affect the childhood. Like, I wasn't able to have a healthy childhood experience with my brother because of the improper parenting that was happening at the time. Right. So parenting is the foundation of an environment. Right. And so they're setting the precedent of how we're going to engage with each other. Right. Another thing that would happen is my brother was a big whiny tattletale, like anything that was an inconvenience to him, whine and cry. And what would my mom do? Again, I'm the older brother. I'm the responsible one. Now, even if he had a sensitivity to something, it was my fault. I had to be better. I had to always, and again, maybe that's what I needed to become the person I am today. Maybe I had to suffer all these things to be able to offer you guys this information. But I'll tell you this, I don't want anybody else to have to go through this. Why? They don't need to go through this suffering. It wasn't necessary. It was necessary for me to be able to teach you guys, but it's not necessary for the world to be a functional place. Not everybody needs to look at me and all the pain I had to go to become success. To become successful is a different path than the one of pain. The one of pain led me back to my greater purpose. But to find your greater purpose, you don't need to go through all this fucked up situations. You don't need to get fucked in life. You don't need to oh, you gotta, no. Suffering is part of learning. Obviously, existence is suffering. Pain is a part of life, but we don't need to make pain a part of life. It is already a part of life. It will come your way. But you know what we can do? Help you process that pain by giving you the tools and insight necessary to be able to handle it when it comes so that you can learn from these painful experiences instead of suffering from them and trying to avoid them and then being upset that you couldn't avoid this pain because pain is unavoidable. Stop trying to run away from pain and start accepting that it's going to come your way. But how are you going to process it when it comes? Because it's not if, it's when. Okay. The only way to avoid pain is just to go straight to death. Okay. Outside of anything near death is going to be painful. Anything even not near death can be painful, right? But that's the only way to avoid it. So if you're trying to avoid pain, you're avoiding existence in general. So just remember that. Okay. So growing up in this environment, me and my brother, again, we had a lot of good connection. Probably could have had even a better connection. But again, we were so always pinned against each other that it's like every time you're hanging out with him, you're just waiting for what? Something bad to happen. Like you're seeking camaraderie, you're seeking connection because you're a human being. But this person is also like the enemy. It's like when you live with your spouse in a way when you're like, you love them, but you kind of hate, not your spouse, but your ex. Like, let's say you're like, not a spouse, but let's say you're getting divorced or like you're in a relationship with somebody and you guys are both mutually living in the same house because you haven't gotten out of the lease yet, right? So there's still like this weird, like, familiarity, like, hey, like we can still get along, like whatever, right? Like you're not gonna hate each other. But then there's times where we're enemies. We're not friends. We're against each other. And I think that's the problem with parenting is that they can make you that. So this dynamic would play out throughout our lives. So we'd always be competing, right? Who did it better? Who won? Da da da. Again, to the point where my brother would turn off the console if he was losing because he didn't. Oh, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen because it didn't happen, right? Because he would turn it off before it would complete, right? So again, instead of thinking, "Oh, good job, bro," like let's play again, right? And enjoying the process, everything became a competition, right? So throughout my life with my childhood, I've always been at ends. What do you call it? Odds ends with my brother. Odds ends with my bro. Yeah. So throughout life, we've always been boom, 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 bump, button heads and fighting. But again, it doesn't mean I would never like go out of my way to protect this guy. Because even though we would bully each other and fight and cause havoc amongst each other, it didn't mean that when somebody would try to do something to my brother, I wouldn't stand up for him, right? Because no, it's like the classic, no one's gonna pick on him more than I'm gonna pick on him. That's my brother, right? So there's definitely been times I've stood up for him, even though he probably deserved it sometimes, to be honest, because knowing how he operates now, but he didn't know. He didn't know. We didn't know he wasn't given the tools. He didn't know. We were kids. We didn't know. So a lot of times, again, we were spent going between my mom's, grandma's. When we were down here in Mexico. Mexico was interesting when we were little because there was less variety of things like to do inside the house. So we were always outside of the house. So it was interesting. Like when we lived in Mexico, we would always hang out with the neighborhood kids. So we'd always be going to their houses or playing like with toys and stuff, or like playing little games like hide and seek or like whatever. Like we like colored eggs is the name of a game. Huevos de colores, whatever. All kinds of little kid games that we'd play and make friends around the neighborhood. Now, something that would happen between my brothers, again, we would always be competing. We'd always be making fun of each other. We'd always be harassing each other because that's what we were taught to do by our parents. They would do that to us too. They would talk down to us. They would talk. So we were just mirroring what we were taught. We were just mirroring the way that we were being provided examples of how to deal with the distress inside of us. So anytime we'd get frustrated, we would take it out on what? Each other, because that's what we were being taught to do. We were being taught this is how you handle it. Now we couldn't take it out on our parents because we would get our asses kicked, but we could take it on each other because we were going to fight. Like, what's up? Like, take me on, right? So again, lots of love, but then our friction too. So even when we were at school, like people wouldn't even know. Like we would be siblings, like we would say hi, but we wouldn't interact. Like he would have his own friend group. I would have my own. Half the time, people didn't even know we were siblings until they saw us get together. They're like, "Oh yeah, you guys are siblings, huh? Oh yeah, you guys have the same last name." But we wouldn't hang out. We weren't close. Like I didn't see him as like, bro. I saw him as annoying. I saw him as it was frustrating for me. I saw him as the enemy. I didn't know how to enjoy my brother. I didn't know how to enjoy his energy, his essence, because again, all I ever saw him was the competition or the enemy or something like something that was keeping me down or something that was inhibiting me from being my full potential, or maybe even like like why did we have to have a brother? Why did it have to come? Because my life could have been fine without him. We could have lived fine, without. And so that those kind of thoughts would come up. And again, it's not his fault. It wasn't his fault. He was a kid. Like I say, children are victims, right? Children are victims of circumstance. So they don't necessarily pick what happens to them. It just happens to them. So just like me and him, we were both victims of circumstance. So I can't dislike him. I can be upset with my parents for improper parenting, for not actually educating themselves on what being a healthy parent is. Because I'll tell you one thing, if you don't know what you're doing, then what should you do? Go find information. If you know you don't know what you're doing, then you should know to go find education to educate yourself on what you are doing. Duh. But it's like, oh, my car doesn't work. Take it to a mechanic. Oh, the plumbing doesn't work. Get a plumber. Hello. Like when something's not working, you don't say, I don't know, and you throw your hands up. You go find information. But these people are scared of what? Of accountability. Imagine that. Imagine them not wanting to be responsible for something they have to take care of. That takes work. I have to do that. I have to care what my kid thinks. I have to be interested in actually supporting my child where they're at developmentally. Sounds like a lot of work. What if I just like gaslight them and tell them that they should just do better because I'm better? That's easier for me. Ah, isn't that nice? Just gaslight them into oblivion. Yeah, you know what? That seems to have worked intergenerationally for years because nobody's alcoholics in horrible marriages, suicidal, because those things haven't existed. It's almost like as long as we have, people frustrated and operating in emotional instability, it's almost like they're not healthy. It's almost like all the people that are complaining all the time about how much life sucks aren't happy because maybe the systems that we've been using aren't working and aren't ineffective. But I don't know, man. That would take responsibility. That would take conscious awareness to actually work on yourself and develop a better self. Just like in a relationship, right? I could keep calling you a piece of shit, horrible husband, or I can just work on myself and be a better wife and say, hey, look, this is what I need from you. And if you can't offer me, hey, I get it. This is not going to work. Instead of, you're never going to change. You're not going to do that. You did that. That's going to motivate this person to want to be your partner. That's going to motivate your person to feel like this home is going to be peaceful. That's the energy that you want to give off as a human being is cattiness, is anger, is frustration. That's really going to help us get far. But again, if they don't think this is the result, whatever, I'll just do it anyways. Whatever. It's like okay, you're mad that the cake didn't come out properly, but you didn't fucking use the ingredients properly. What the fuck do you want? It's like, oh, well, I didn't read the recipe. So you made a cake, but you didn't fucking read the recipe or understand how to make it. You wanted a cake, but you didn't understand that it takes ingredients to grow it, like to do it, right? You don't want to know about the steps? Oh, this isn't working. Why am I yelling every day? Why am I frustrated? Is it them or me? I don't know. You guys stress me out. Then go to therapy. Go get help. Go to church. I don't know, something. What are they going to tell me? More than you got? So don't do anything about it. Stay frustrated and get mad at everybody? That makes fucking sense. So again, where are we operating? Where are we at? Where are we thinking? So as a little kid, yeah, me and my brother kind of got along some days, not all the time. Again, like I love him. He's my brother. He will always understand my story better than anybody in this world. He will always be somebody that's very special to me because again, he is he is another version of me. He's the alternative version of who I could have been, right? Because again, we come from the same origin story. And so I value that from him. And he taught me a lot about what it meant to be an older brother, what it meant to be a role model, what it meant to have dynamics. And again, even being an unhealthy brother, an asshole of a brother, a mean brother. Why? Again, because I was hurt and I acted out like the child that I was, reacting to the world that I was being lived in, reacting to that negative environment. You can't be angry at a pit bull who's been raised to fight. I was really good at fighting. I was really good at manipulation. I was really good at putting people down and burning them apart because that's all I was taught. It's like Conan, okay? He didn't want to kill people. He didn't want to pillage. He didn't want to do any of that shit. He just wanted his mom and dad. But you know what? They got fucking killed in front of him. Then he was put into slave labor. Then he was made a gladiator. And then he was able to gain some freedom because he fucking fought all the way to the top and had no one else to kill. So he's like, what the fuck else am I gonna do? I'm fucking Conan. I don't want any of this stuff. I just want to be live normal. I just want to have a decent life. Nope, not in the books for you, buddy. You're gonna have to learn. You're gonna have to suffer. You're gonna have to grow. It's like I make the joke about Bane. I grew up in the darkness. I was molded by the darkness, included in the fucking addict, as you guys know, right? Oh, the fucking I was molded by. I was molded by the wolf claw from under the bed. I was molded by the darkness. Definitely, I was actually definitely molded by the darkness, running around, getting the light and shit. Ah, yeah, molded by that thing. I was terrified by it until I learned how to conquer it. So again, I had to suffer to get to where I'm at, but here we are, right? So overall, like as we continued in our childhood, like we lived in Oklahoma, we moved there for a while, and that was interesting time. Me and my brother, we always would like get along to some extent, and other times not. So like some days we were like really good friends and stuff, and other days I didn't know him. He was a stranger in my house. He was just my brother. He was just an acquaintance. Sometimes at school, like again, we would see each other, get along, but the interesting thing about school was always, again, being the golden child, right? So I might start at a classroom and go in there, and they're like, "Wow, Sebastian, like he's helpful, he's a role model, blah blah blah, good student, blah blah blah, all that good stuff, right?" And then they would get my brother years later, and they would say, "What's going on here?" Because the funny thing is, if you look at it from their perspective, right? Like you see me, so you're like, oh my God, their household must be great, blah, blah, blah. And then you get my brother and you're like, what the hell is this? What is happening here? This child's throwing chairs. He's getting in fights with teachers. He doesn't listen. He's emotionally dysregulated. Very intelligent. Doesn't want to listen, but knows everything. So like they ask him a question, blah, he would know it, blah. But again, this goes back to what? My mom didn't understand his diagnosis, didn't understand what was going on with him, didn't understand how to be an effective parent herself. Because again, her version of parenting is like, well, okay, think of a little girl playing house. That is how my mom parented. She played house. The house was house. No baby, don't touch that baby. No baby, like don't sit on that couch. Don't use that towel. Don't use those dishes. Don't do that. We're playing house. In my house, where my children live, it's their house. Why? Because we have children. It's almost like they don't understand those things because they're not built for that. So we've developed and fostered an environment that was developed for children to operate. Okay. If we want to have an adult house, then we don't have children. Okay. My mom wanted to have a model house with children. It doesn't work that well. Okay. So we were her dolls in her little house. That's why I had a bowl cut until I was like fucking 7 years old. Where I had to like, look, I'm gonna teach you guys a trick today. I got a skill. I'm a mutant. Okay. Wait, hold on. What's this? See that? Oh yeah. I can move my hair, right? So I can move it. So because I can move my hair, I used to fuck with the barbers because I hated the fucking bowl cut so much. Or move my hair. I didn't know that was weird. I thought everyone could do that. I didn't. How do I know? Like, oh, I can do this weird trick. I didn't know that was. I thought everyone could. I was like, that's normal, isn't it? No, it's not. I don't know what the hell it's called, but I'm a mutant. But yeah, so I used to fuck with the barbers. Move my hair. People used to think I had a wig. Anyways, but yeah, the kids be like, "You have a wig, what?" Or toupee. And I was like, "The fuck is a toupee?" ¿Qué? ¿Qué es eso? No entiendo. ¿Qué toupee? ¿Toupee qué? I don't know, pay nothing. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, so growing up, having to have a brother that had that, and he's going to these classrooms, and they were like, "What the hell is going on with this child? What is happening?" But again, lack of knowledge, lack of insight, lack of consistency, not being a real parent, more of like again a model parent, not a model parent, but a model parent. I am mother. Ha ha ha. You do this. Ha ha. Ha. You are a child. You do this. Ha ha. Again, we were living in a little simulation. Okay. We were only allowed to be in this little box, and that was what you were allowed. And you would live in this little box because you're my child, and children listen to mommy, and they will do what mommy says. My brother had a harder spirit than that. So this motherfucker probably broke my mom down to the point where she just didn't care because she like this motherfucker's crazy. This kid will just run away. He'll just leave the door. He don't care. He'll just be like, I'm out, bye, bitch. Like he literally would just He did not care. So maybe because he was so unruly, she's like, I have to work with it. But again, she wasn't fostering healthy communication skills to incentivize a positive type of communication. My children with autism, they will come to me and say, Dad, can I have this? And I work with them. Hey, and I like this. Cool. You like that? Tell me about it. They feel so comfortable talking to me that they don't feel the need to run away. I'm their safety. If a child feels the need to run away, to escape. Now, do I say that my child like has moments where like I hate everything? Sure, every child does. But like I don't feel safe here. My children don't tell me they don't feel safe. They just feel that they're upset, right? It's not safety is not the concern. Okay. Love is not the concern. All right. I'm not getting what I want is the problem in that case, right? But again, it's safety is not the concern here. But when a child's like, I don't feel safe here opening up to you, I don't feel like you're a good person for me to be around, I don't feel secure, I don't feel like you value me as a human being, that's when we have problems. That's when it's an issue. Again, kids, when they get in that little, wow, that's different, right? When they want something, you don't want to give it to them, that's different. But when a child is afraid to open up to you, or the child doesn't like the response you're giving because you're yelling at them and you're reacting to them, and you're making them feel unsafe in their environment, we got a different problem. Okay? So just things to be aware of. Why is that important? Well, again, if a kid's operating in the sense that I don't feel safe, growth is going to be stunted. Because remember, in order for children to develop properly, they need to be able to feel organically, and then you need to teach them and guide them what to do with those feelings. So, what does me and my brother being taught? Suppress, drain, which is just building an anger and resentment towards everybody in existence. Everybody. You start to hate everybody. You start to dislike everybody because the one person that's supposed to love you unconditionally tells you you're not good enough all the time, reminds you that you're nothing, reminds you that they're this and they're that, and you're this and you're that, and reminds you that you are in this little box that they have made for you. Again, so that becomes your prison, this little box they've created. Until you learn to say, this box isn't real. But in order to think outside of the box, you're not old enough to think outside the box. So you have to live within the box. You also don't have the tools to get out of the box. So you have to continue to live within this box. So just taking a note, right? As I continue down my journey of my childhood and everything I've been through, right? That this box plays a huge role in who I was as a child, because that emotional and logical prison that you get stuck in influences you so much and makes you hate the world because you weren't given permission to go out and live the world. All right. It's kind of like when you have super crazy fundamentalistic religious people who are like, they hate everybody outside of their own little realm. Well, that's essentially what it felt like for me when you are being boxed in this little prison of emotions and thought, that you start to hate everything around you and resent everything because what is there to love about life? Everything you're being taught is it's going to be miserable. Everything you're being told is just horrible. Everything you said is it's never going to be good enough. It's never going to be right. It's never going to be this. So what the fuck is the point? But again, you don't think outside the box, so you remain in that box until one day you break the box and say, I'm never going back in that box. And now that makes me the black sheep. That makes me the bad one because you're not putting into the system anymore. You're bad. I'd rather be bad than controlled. Because if that's what being bad is, then I'm bad as fuck. And I'm not living in that box. I'm not going back. So as I process my childhood into teenage years, as I go into those years, you will notice that this box is going to break. And there's a specific event that happens in my life that's the first crack in that seam of me taking control of my life and becoming the black sheep that I was and will always be and continue to be. Because again, I'm not a black sheep. I'm just normal. But when you live in a world full of people that are being drained by the dark energies out there, the four horsemen of misery, overthinking, no thinking, overfeeling, and no feeling, when you are being consumed by those four horsemen, your enlightenment is gone. So just remember that's what really causes this disruption in the people around us is people lack enlightenment anymore, right? My mom, no feeling, right? And no thinking or no thinking and overfilling because she didn't think about us, but she felt about what she wanted, right? Hmm. And I had to think without feeling. And that's why I was messed up, because children are designed to feel, they're not designed to think. And it wasn't that I could really think. I just had to stay present always. I couldn't enjoy. I always had to stay what's going to happen, what's going to happen, because children can't predict the future. They can only really live in the now. So that's why they live in distress and fear, because they can't live with the comfort of knowing everything's going to be okay. They have to be reassured that everything's going to be okay, because they don't have that thought. Anyways, thanks guys for coming to another episode of my podcast. I appreciate you guys coming by. Hopefully, you've learned a little more about me today, and continue to follow me on my journey to learn self and put it out there for everybody. Take it easy, guys. Later.